later. So a little bit about me. I'm a community builder and a social media geek. And that's obviously why I'm here talking to you guys about analytics. I also enjoy pushing some boundaries. I'm a huge comic book nerd, so if you guys later want to jam about like Guardians of the Galaxy and what's different from the comics and the movie, we can totally talk later. I also like reading urban fantasy, and yes, my hair is purple. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you guys. So, a lot of you guys are out there running social media for a brand. Some of you, probably social media is the only thing that you do all day. That's your bread and butter. That's what gets you excited and out of bed. For others of you, it might be, half your work. You're doing other things. You're wearing lots of hats. And for some of you, you probably have a small business where like social media is the thing you think about, after the bills are paid, after the inventory's happened, after that, normal work day. But no matter what, you have some basic, as the person who does social media, you have some basic needs, you have some basic wants. You want to love your work, and I realize that like analytics can be a little dry, can be a little boring. So I hope today to kind of make you love that portion of your work a little more. Also, you want to excel at it. You want to do a good job, and ultimately, you want to please your boss or your clients or yourself. And you can be the pickiest person out of, compared to your boss or your clients. And sometimes, you are your client. So you can even be even harder on yourself. So let's, get you in a good place. And of course, as you're doing your social media, you want to grow your social media followers and that conversation around your brand. But there's a huge danger goal, and this is unfortunately a lot of social media managers get stuck in the follower trap. Whether a boss or a client or themselves are like, I gotta have a zillion followers. Maybe your competitor has a lot of followers. Maybe you just see someone else on social media that you really admire who has millions of followers, and you're like, why am I not there? Why is my brand not there? And this can be a really, really dangerous goal because it's really easy to go out and buy likes for your Facebook page or followers on Twitter. You can hop on Fiverr and do this. It's pretty cheap, but it's not worth it. If your social media profile says that you have, 1 million followers, but no one's interacting with you, no one's clicking on your links, no one cares what you're sharing, like that isn't fun. That isn't, it isn't going to help your brand at all. It's not going to help your bottom line. And unfortunately, even celebrities inflate their followers and go out and buy followers. So this is a tool called fake follower account. It's by Social Bakers. So there's a bunch of resources at the end of this deck, and that will have all the links to all these tools I'm talking about today, along with some other resources. And so there's a link to this at the end. And so I ran it on a few accounts. So this tool has, I would say, around a 16%. I could give you a false positive. So when I ran Barack Obama, it told me that 52% of his Twitter followers were fake. And I'm like, why? Like, I understand the pressure for a politician to have a lot of followers, but, fake followers aren't going to vote for you. They aren't going to donate money to your campaign or anything like that. They're not going to do anything. Then I ran Katy Perry's, and hers was 57%, so even more. These bots aren't out there, shopping on iTunes for her latest album or listening to it on Spotify or watching her videos on YouTube. They aren't doing anything. And then I think the saddest one actually is CNN's breaking news. So CNN's breaking news, millions of followers, 65% of them are fake. And I'm just like, what? And the whole point of a breaking news Twitter account is that people are retweeting with you, and people are engaging with you, and people are sharing the breaking news, and you're a thought leader in your industry. And you can't be a thought leader when you say you have all these followers, but they don't do anything. Just makes me sad. So I know this is like really, you guys are like, oh my gosh, even the president has fake followers. Why can't I just go and buy some? And why can't I make those follower numbers look better? So, there's just like the harsh truths about brands on social media. So one is that the average business actually doesn't have a lot of followers. Obviously, there are big global brands out there like Coca-Cola or Starbucks that have millions of followers, and it's just insane for those people doing their social media management. But most brands top out at around 14,000 followers. It just doesn't make sense. Like their audience isn't that big. It's not, their brand is not that universal. On Facebook, it's around 13,000. And on, networks that don't have as much saturation point yet, like Pinterest and Instagram, it's like right around 200 followers per brand. So for those of you, some of you can probably pat yourself on the back who are doing Pinterest and Instagram, probably have more followers than that, who are doing a great job. So, take a moment and do that. The other kind of harsh truth about social media is really that a lot of brands are just sending messages out there that nobody cares about. They have no impact. They don't say anything. They're kind of just targeted at a general audience. No one cares what brands are saying out there. And it kind of reminds me a lot of direct mail that you would get in your mailbox, and I still get them all the time. So this is my little diagram that I drew of my daily routine. So every day when I come home from work, I check my mail, and then I read it as I'm walking to my door. And in between my mailbox and my door is my recycle bin. And let me tell you, with the exception of letters from my grandmother and a few bills I need to pay, all of it goes in my recycling. I don't really care if, Safeway is giving me a coupon for lettuce, or if, someone wants me to vote for them, or if someone wants me to donate money for a campaign that, doesn't really strike me. And this is how a lot of people's social media, a lot of brands, their social media messages are just going out there, and they're like direct mail that just get dumped in the recycle bin. But instead of a recycle bin, people are just scrolling on by. There's also, notoriously, we have bad attention spans, right? So we all do this, where we know that we just like skim through articles, everything is just quickly consumed, nothing is really dived in. And social media, like, this can't be more true. On Twitter, the average tweet only lasts 18 minutes. This is actually from a study we did here at Moz, and one of our very, very large Twitter enthusiasts did this study, and it was amazing that he found out that, the average tweet only lasts 18 minutes, and then it's gone. It's like no one saw it, or, very few people saw it in that 18-minute window. On Facebook, it's 2 to 3 hours. Facebook, has been doing some changes to their algorithm lately. So if, you get a lot of engagement and a lot of comments, it can pop up on people's streams again. On Google Plus, it's around 3 hours. And on Instagram, it's around 3 to 4 hours. So, this just makes the case that a lot of people aren't going to see your content no matter how many followers you have. So you need to make it engaging. It also makes a good case that you can reshare your content. Like, I wouldn't, I don't suggest being like, I tweeted 18 minutes ago, so I'm going to send out the same tweet. You can send it out in a few days or something if it was a successful good a tweet. So the major problem with these messages that are going out from brands is that they're just not targeted at anyone. They don't say anything about the brand. And it's a whole nother webinar on like how to craft great content for social media. But when your message is so generic and you don't take a stance and you don't say something about your niche, no one cares. And it's way better to say something impactful and have 2 people out of a whole crowd be like, yeah, that resonated with me. That was amazing. I want to tell people about it, or I want to go and buy your product, or I want to figure out more who you are, or I want to follow you. You're my people. So I just want everyone to kind of take a deep breath. I'm not going to panic. If you guys are kind of feeling bad about yourselves, like, I'm sorry, it's like Tuesday, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough followers. People are buying followers. I don't want to buy followers. My brand's messages, I don't feel are that like dynamic or unique on social media. It's okay. You can all just take a deep breath. Don't panic. Especially don't panic if you have a boss or a client, or even if you have the pressure on yourself, someone who comes up to you and says, okay, let's get 1 million followers, or let's get 10,000 followers in 6 months. I've been there. I've worked with brands where this was the case, and I had, a high-level person come up to me and say, I want you to have 10,000 more likes on Facebook in the next 6 months. And I was like, yeah, it's time to have a hard talk. So the tough talk is really, why is my brand on social media? How does this align with your business goals? We all have these aspirations like, I want to be the best social media marketer in the planet. But how do you look at that? How do you analyze that? What is the tangible goal, and how do you get there? So most brands, out there, you guys have kind of like top level business goals. You'll have like your sales goal, but you'll also have other goals of what you kind of want to do. And you can take those and you can create goals for your social media and what you are trying to do on social media. And then you can look at those goals and you can figure out how to measure them. So this is just kind of 6 random things that you could do on social media to connect with your followers or use your social media accounts for your brands for. You can use them for lead generation. HubSpot is a great example of this. They do a lot of lead generation through their social media accounts. You can promote partnerships that you've done with people and contact influencers. So at Moz, we do a partnership program with other SaaS businesses where we give a discount off of their services, and they get a little bit of a discount on our services, and we promote that via social media. If you're a thought leader in your industry, you want to be able to grab that, and you can attach goals to that. So like CNN's breaking news, they should be a thought leader. They shouldn't be buying followers. They should be a thought leader. You may use it for customer service. So at Moz, we see around like 20% or so of our tweets are typically customer service related. And that's cool. Like, we like to help people. And there's some brands, like airlines are pretty famous for doing this, where they create, customer service only accounts. So yeah, like, get out there, talk to people. You may want to beat your competition. So this can be really fun. You can look at brands that are kind of in your same sphere, that are your same size, and you can be like, I want to have more engagement. I want to have more mentions. Maybe that's where you do use a little bit of followers, at least for a good comparison of where you might realistically be. And maybe you just want to connect with your community. Maybe it's just important to get out there and engage with people. But please just say no to reporting vanity metrics. Follower accounts are complete vanity metrics. They don't really say anything of substance about what you're doing. So this is a follower report of Moz's Twitter account, and it's pretty crazy for me that I work for a brand that has over 300,000 followers on Twitter. It just blows my mind every time I think about it, and it's really humbling. I'm like, oh, wow, all those people want to follow us. But we also started at 0. We started in that same place, and we've grown it over time. And we've worked to refine our message, and that means more. And it means more to have conversations with those people than it does to just say oh yeah, this is our number. That's just all vanity. Okay, but you do actually want to track your followers. The reason you need to track them is for math. I know I just said the M word. I was a creative writing major in college, so math can be a little scary, but don't worry. We're going to talk through it. I'm going to talk to you about some tools that can help you with the math, and can do it for you. Yay! But we're gonna dive in. So let's talk about what we should report. So you should be reporting engagement. So a lot of people are always like, engagement, 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 and you're like, yeah, I've heard that a zillion times. But let's talk about what engagement actually means, how you can actually report it in a meaningful manner. So at Moz, we use this wonderful tool called True Social Metrics. And True Social Metrics the company was started actually based on a post by Avinash Kaushik, who was formerly the Google Analytics evangelist, and now he's like their digital marketing evangelist. A really smart guy when it comes to analytics, and he wrote this post about how like everyone was tracking all these vanity metrics of followers on social media and how that was just a bunch of bunk. And he said that you should be tracking the conversation rate, the amplification rate, and the applause rate, which are all engagement metrics, and also your economic value. So since we're talking engagement, we're going to focus on the first three. We'll talk a little bit about economic conversions in a little while, but if you guys are tracking engagement, breaking it down into conversation, amplification, and applause is really important. So before we go in and define those, let's talk a little bit about the math of how to get this rate. So this math is basically counting and division. So this is for the high-level reports that True Social Metrics shows, which is a freemium tool. So I really suggest letting them do the math for you. It just makes your life a little easier. So basically, you take your time period of what you're reporting, you take the number of actions made by your followers, you divide that by the number of posts that you've made in that time period, and then you get the rate. You also want to, have some comparison against yourself. So you want to be able to find a baseline of what you're going to be comparing yourself to as you're building this up. And you want to work on making sure that the time period you select actually makes sense. So for instance, if you have a brand that's really seasonal and like your social media is just hopping from like Black Friday to that like post New Year's sale, it's probably not the best time to actually compare yourself the rest of the year to your social media goals, because it's going to be way higher. And if like the converse is true, if you're totally in the summertime, like, everyone's on vacation for your brand, then that's too low. That's not going to give you a good goal. So to dive in, so the first engagement metric you want to be tracking is conversation rate. So this basically will give you insight into who's chatting with you, how often they're chatting with you, what topics they're chatting to you about, what parts of your content that's really working. So this is a really simple spreadsheet that I made for our team here at Moz that I just use Google Spreadsheets, and it put some very simple formulas in. And so we looked for our conversation rate we have our baseline. Then we looked at how much we wanted to increase it on each network, which gave us a goal, the goal was automatically calculated in the spreadsheet because, it's just easier if the spreadsheet does the math. And then we're pulling in what we're currently doing with our metrics, and then what percentage of that goal is complete. So at Moz, we really believe in having stretch goals, and we don't actually want our goals to be 100% complete. And if our goals are nearing 100%, if they're more than like 75, 85% complete, we actually go in and up our goal. So we're always making it harder on ourselves. This may not be true of how you guys work. It really just depends on kind of your brand and how you do business. So we went in and we looked at our major three networks, which are Twitter and Facebook and Google+. Then we do track it for some of the other ones. And we said, okay, we need to increase it. And, each network is a little different. So on Twitter, it was, it was a pretty good size, increase. We've added a lot of people to our team, so our conversation ability physically, it has increased. So our goal kind of reflects that. On Facebook, it's the same way. We really want to get in and get talking with people. And on Google+, we're struggling a little bit with that network. Even though SEOs are kind of our primary bread and butter audience and they're on Google+ a lot, still the conversation there is kind of low for us. So, part of what we work hard on is trying to figure out campaigns that will work to increase that conversation. You can also look at conversation goals to show if you're keeping up with your competitors. So this is a report from a tool called Sprout Social. And this is looking at us compared to HubSpot. So HubSpot, their product does not compete with us, but their educational content is similar to ours, and we're actually a competitor content-wise with them. So this is a good social media account for us to compare to. And so we care a lot about engaging with our audience. And we have an engagement rate in this tool, which is actually the primary tool we use for our Twitter social management. We have a 99% engagement rate on Twitter versus HubSpot only talks with about 43% of their audience. So this is really important to us, and like that's a really important metric. Even though if you look, we haven't gained as many followers as HubSpot, and also the bottom, which is Twitter mentions, HubSpot has a lot more than us. And as a social media marketer, I would then like dig into the analytics, and I would say like, why does this happen? And I would look at HubSpot's content versus our content, and I might say things like, well, HubSpot buys a lot more paid ads than we are, so they have a lot greater audience share because they're venturing out into paid mentions. They also sometimes their content is a little wider of an audience, and ours can be like a very niche, like the person who wants to know more about rel canonical tags in SEO. So you can kind of compare, and you can come up with good ideas for campaigns. You can come up with ways, that you might increase your brand compared to your competitors. The next engagement metric that we're going to look at is the amplification rate. So these are the people that are resharing your content. They're retweeting you on Twitter. They're resharing posts on Facebook, on Google+, they're repinning your pins on Pinterest. And this can tell you, what's really resonating with your audience, where it's resonating. It can be very, very, very different between each network. One thing might go great on Google+, that may just flop on Twitter. And also kind of the why did this go so fabulously, or why did it not go so fabulously? So again, we track these goals, and these are the metrics from True Social Metrics, and very simple spreadsheet laid out the exact same way. So when we send all our engagement metrics reports in, we have consistency across the board. And so I thought it was really interesting here with amplification. So recently, Facebook, as we know, has been making a ton of changes to their algorithm, and this really shows in our goal. We have this 450% increase in a goal to have more people reshare our content on Facebook. So Facebook's been trying to be more of a content server, and they want more people reading articles on their site. And at Moz, we've seen that our articles are getting more reshares than ever, so we needed to up our goal. But conversely, on Google+, we're still really struggling, and we actually had a little bit of a downward trend. So we can say, like, what were we doing? That's not right. How can we kind of make this different? You can also look at audience reach. So this is Buffer's Analytics, and this is actually my personal account. And so I like this kind of metric that they do where they kind of add up this potential reach. So obviously, this is on Twitter. So on Twitter, you have that like 18 minutes of your content in front of people, and then it's gone. This can help you kind of sift through and see what was popular and see what that kind of potential audience was. Obviously, not everyone was on Twitter, and they add up, the followers of the people who have retweeted you and your followers. I think I have like 2,800 to kind of give you guys an idea of like where this number started. And these are two, social media things and SEO things are really popular among my followers, and these are two posts that did pretty well for me. But one thing that I noticed about both these posts is the people that retweeted them were people that I had established relationships with. All these people I've actually met in real life, or not real life, because the internet's real too, but face to face. They're people I have relationships with prior. So it really shows the power of going out and connecting with people who are influencers and sharing their content, having conversations with them, because they're likely to amplify the conversations that you're having. So another thing that I really love to show reach is Google Plus ripples. So Google Plus is kind of interesting. They kind of like hide this chart. AJ Cohn, who's a really awesome SEO, he actually created like a little bookmarklet shortcut tool, which is listed in my resources at the end of this deck, that you guys can use to like more easily make these reports just pop up on the content you shared. So this was a post that I shared about Moz's annual conference, MozCon. And these little circles show the people who reshared the content, and you can see how the people are connected a little bit, where the overlap is, and if you recognize some of the names of these people, these might be people that you can reach out for further content pushes, especially since like, I know these people are interested in MozCon. So I noticed Yosef Silver is a big Moz community fan. He's also gone to MozCon a few times, and he loves it. And he's a great community member. And I know that he's someone that was interested in sharing this post. And he might be someone, if I had another post about MozCon, I might reach out to him. Maybe I reach out to him for testimonial. Maybe I reach out to him to actually share it. And this other big bubble is Mike Arneson. So Mike Arneson actually was a speaker at MozCon 2013, and he's a big MozCon supporter. And so again, he might be someone I'm like, hey Mike, I'm doing this thing. Can I get like testimonial from you? Can I get, maybe a quote about how it was as a speaker at MozCon? Like, let's connect more, let's chat. You can also look at your content to see what's popular so you can share it again. So, if it pops out of people's, out of sight, out of mind, in a few days, share the content that does really well and learn from the content that does really well. So this is a tool called Rival IQ, which here at Moz we've really fallen in love with them. And they give really easy metrics on just how well your posts have done. So this post at the top had like a 16 times our average engagement rate of people resharing and clicking on it and all those great things. You also notice it's a tweet and it has a lovely photo. We've noticed that photos get a higher engagement rate on Twitter now that they're all showing in stream. And so this is a post where we said, hey, let's reshare that next week. Let's do it again. So the third and final engagement main engagement metric you should be looking at is your applause rate. The people, so applause is anyone who's like liking or favoriting your content. These are the kind of people that are, maybe they're a little lurking. They like you, they want to encourage you, they're giving you high fives, maybe they're just scrolling quickly and they're like, oh my god, I love you, I love your brand, I just want to like everything you do. So they can be great to have around. So again, here is our simple spreadsheet pulling in those metrics straight from True Social Metrics. And we looked at how we should be improving ourselves and what works. And so on Facebook, we've kind of seen that the changes in their algorithm have actually made our likes kind of dip down a little bit. So our goal here is way less to increase than our goal on amplification on Facebook. So it's a little different of a beast, and it explains kind of the direction that Facebook's going, how they're changing. Okay, so those are your engagement rates. You should also be reporting relative engagement rates. Okay, so this will be a little bit of an explanation. What do you mean by relative engagement rates? So as you grow your followers, and as you start really getting in your groove in social media and you're posting all the time, you want to make sure that you keep connecting at the same pace with your audience as you're like amassing followers. So basically my like simplified metaphor is that if you threw a dinner party and you invited 10 people to your party, and at the party, things were like going great, everyone's having a good time, but say you only talked to 5 of those people at your party, you would have a relative engagement rate of 50%. Pretty easy. And then like next month, because you had such a great time, you decided that you wanted to have another party and you invited 20 people this time. And when you invited 20 people, in order to keep the same engagement rate with those people at your dinner party, you'd have to talk to 10 of them. Maybe you want to increase that to 75. And so then you'd have to talk to 15 of them. So it's just making sure that as you grow, you're not actually talking to less people than you would be, if you have less followers. So True Social Metrics does a great job at pulling these numbers in as well. So they use the conversation, the amplification, and the applause, and they look at it at per 1,000 followers. Now, some of you, it may make sense to change this metric to be actually per 100 followers if you don't have a lot of followers. For those of you, and maybe on some social networks, you are very blessed like Moz is, and you actually want to look at it per 10,000 followers. So again, to cover the math for this high-level report, you have your time period you're looking at. Then you take the number of actions, you divide it by the number of posts you've made in that time period. Then you divide it by your followers per 1,000, and this gets your relative engagement rate. You can also get a content rate by doing a similar thing where you just look at one post that you made on social media, you divide that number of actions, so whether that action is, shares on Twitter where you're looking at retweets, or if you're looking at replies, where you're looking at comments, things like that. So you take the number of actions, divide that by your followers per 1,000, and then you get your content rate, and you can tell how those individual pieces of content are doing. So when looking at our relative engagement goals, we look at it pretty much the same way. Again, we created the same style of spreadsheets. So what's really fascinating, with Moz having so many Twitter followers, we actually don't talk to as many as we should be. We are not even talking to 1%, barely. It's barely 1% of the audience. It's crazy. We need to talk to more people. I feel like we tweet all the time, right? So this says we need to tweet more. We need to be replying more people. We need to be diving into these conversations. How can we create more conversations? How can we talk to people more? How can we work to make sure that our posts are more retweetable? How can we make it so our posts are more favorable? What should we be doing? Okay, so we've talked about engagement. I hope you guys are all excited and you're like, yeah, engagement. Now I finally know what it is, and now I finally know how I can actually measure it and analyze it. So, okay, what about conversions? What happens when your boss says, so how much, how many socks did you sell on Twitter today? I used to work for an online clothing store, so I got that question before. Well, maybe not socks exactly, but similar. So social media can be about many different things, and we talked a little bit about the beginning that you have different business goals, and that your business goals should reflect the goals on your social media. So at Moz, we know that the people coming in to read our content are not necessarily people. Not 100% of them are ready to be Moz customers, right? Our tool is very do-it-yourself. You have to know things about SEO to gain insights from it. And a lot of people are coming to us for education, and some people are, maybe they're the small business owner that, you just want some education, a little bit on the side because you've heard that this social media thing or this SEO thing is a thing you should be doing, and you want to learn how to do it. Well, you're not really qualified as a customer to use our tools. So it doesn't really make sense for us to be yeah, buy our tools. No, you're not, it's not going to work for you. It doesn't make sense. So we are trying to just get brand awareness, and we're trying to get people into that top of the funnel, and we may have a few qualified customers here and there, but we do not track direct sales based on social media. Instead, we look at traffic because we're getting people to our site. So this is just a report from Google Analytics, a breakdown of our social traffic. So this was over a month, and we had 2.4 million visits. And we compare this against time, and we actually have an overall marketing team goal to increase organic traffic this quarter by 15%. Some weeks we hit it, some weeks we don't. But this is our goal. Our goal isn't, how many subscriptions did you sell today? Because that just doesn't make sense. And there's lots of things, you can create similar goals around. Maybe there's something big happening with your company. Maybe you rebranded. Moz, we rebranded like a year and a half ago. So it was really important for us to get our new name out there, and social media was one of those driving factors. Maybe you have an email sign-up form. Maybe you're doing webinars and you want more people to come to them, and maybe that's the important thing that you're tracking. Maybe you are looking at sales leads, but they're leads. They're not like closing the deal. Maybe you're looking to get product feedback. So this is something we actually do at Moz quite a bit. Our product team comes to us and they say, we want feedback on this. Can you guys send out a survey, or of people that we can get their emails and then we can talk to them later. It works great. Maybe you just want to have branding awareness. Maybe like you're out there because you need to be out there in your competitive landscape, and you need to show people who you are. And maybe you have some sort of on-site community, and maybe it isn't converting customers. Maybe it's just converting people to come in and to your free forum or comment on your blog. Be all these things, and you can tie them directly back to a Google Analytics report or an engagement report. You also want to report anything that is important to your business, and this can be super company specific, super brand specific. You really want to dive into what matters for your brand. So here at Moz, one thing that is super important for us is customer happiness. And one way we increase this happiness, in fact, we have a whole person who is dedicated to, like, half of her job is customer happiness on our community team here at Moz. And we send out happy packages, is what we call them, to people who, some of them are customers, some of them are just community members, some of them are just people that tweet at us. Sometimes they're just like a little postcard. Sometimes they have this little Roger, he's our mascot, a little USB drive. Sometimes we send out water bottles, t-shirts, bags, little swag. So we have some branding out in the world. And in Q2 of this year, we sent out 154 of these happy packages. It's pretty crazy. People love it. People post them around. We pin them to our Pinterest board. It's great. So this is a fun chart I made actually about Moz's community team growth. So I actually think this is way more powerful than showing that vanity metric of how our followers have grown, but how the time it takes to manage this community has impacted how many personnel we actually have. So in 2010, my manager, our director of community, Jen Lopez, took the Twitter keys away from Rand Fishkin, our founder, and said, hey, I'm going to dive into this community thing. I'm going to see what it's about. And she was doing our social media, and she was doing our Q&A forum on our website, and our user-generated content blog, and our main blog. This was before we had a content team, and doing all the things. But by 2011, I was hired, and my coworker Carrie was hired. Our team just blew up, and now we're at 2014, where we have 5 full-time people and 4 part-time people helping us out and diving in and taking care of our community, because our community has grown so exponentially, and because it's a huge business goal for Moz to stay connected to our community. And these are all the lovely ladies I get to work with every day. They're really awesome. So another thing at Moz that's really important for us is product feedback. When I first started here at Moz, we did a really terrible job at bringing product feedback from social media in particular to our product managers and the people who make decisions about how our product changes and grows. So now we have these weekly meetings where we all sit down in a room with the proper people who own the projects, and we talk to them about what our community is saying they want changes or feature requests or bugs they're having or anything. So I really suggest if you guys are doing something like this, to ask the people that you're giving these reports what format they would like them in. So a lot of you are probably looking at this, you're like, wow, this is an ugly spreadsheet. But our product team loves spreadsheets, and this is their requested format. And this makes them happy, and that makes our community happy. So even though we're like, ugh, spreadsheet, another one, this translates what our customers need. So this is product feedback from July. It's real feedback from Moz customers, and our #1 request, unsurprising to us, is that people want our site to be responsive for mobile devices, because it's really embarrassing, but it's a big request. And then we have some others for our products. You also want to think about who the audience is. So at Moz, we do some special events. So we just had our annual conference, MozCon. In fact, I just completed most of the reports for people about how MozCon 2014 went, which was in July. And this is a report I send to the stakeholders of the MozCon project. It's really wordy. It's a big old Word document. It has lots of details. It goes into a lot of analytics about our post-conference survey and what our attendees thought and what they need. I read every single comment. There were like 600 responses to our survey this year, so there's a lot of data to sift through. This document's really long. Our stakeholders love it. In fact, I sent this out, and then I had Rand come back and say, hey, can you do comparisons here and here for the last 2 years? And I said, sure. And then I was able to provide more detail and also more explanation because I knew all the details of how things had changed and why they had changed, and how, whether we needed to ask better survey questions or how we needed to pivot and adjust our conference to make it better. However, that's not the document that all of our staff here at Moz wants to see. They're like, I don't want to read your 6-page Google Doc, Erica. No. So this is from actually last MozCon, and I put together a really simple presentation that I gave really high level, really basic overviews of MozCon, because all of Moz's staff comes to it and it matters to them, and they're always really curious of, what our audience thought, and was it successful, and how much money did we spend, and how much bacon did we eat. And so this is a slide from actually last year. Our 2 major complaints were that the Wi-Fi didn't work and that the days were very, very long because we had a lot of speakers, too many speakers, and we went over. And I'm very happy to say, we solved these problems this year. So finally, we solved the Wi-Fi, mostly. So I wanted to, as you guys are thinking, you guys are like, oh my gosh, at least I hope all of you are just like, I want to report on this, and I want to report on this, and I want this for my brand. So a few more notes about your reporting. So you want to make sure that your reports tell a story. So you want to be able to say hey, this happened, and this is why it happened, and here's what the data says, and here's what I'm inferring, and here's how we're going to pivot what we're doing. So we send out reports, all company. Actually, we share them with the entire world. We, tweet them out over social media on Twitter and share them on Facebook and all the goodness. And we show engagement, traffic, and our customer love over time, so we can see how we're improving, or maybe how we need to improve more. So this is a sample report. So this is we put together every month for our company and our community what we call the Community Chronicle. And this is July's that just came out here really soon. I put a link to the sample report. We use a program called, I want to say it's PictoChart. Ugh. We just switched programs, so and it gives us really easy visualizations and data graphs, and we're always kind of improving of what we're reporting on and what that data looks like. So we want to show love, and this is really important. So a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't really care how many people you talk to on Facebook. It doesn't matter to me. I don't really care how many people are resharing your stuff on Google+. But we'll have staffers who scroll down just to look at the picture of the month. We always try to include something fun. So this is actually at our convention, MozCon, and one of our community members is an enthusiastic roper from Texas, and he was like, I want to rope Roger. And we were like, okay, I think we can do that, just don't hurt Roger. And so this is a picture of him roping Roger, and it just shows a lot of fun, and it just shows how our community has love, and it can, a picture can convey that message to, our engineers that are working on our product and maybe otherwise don't get to have face-to-face interaction with community members. You can also, this data shows the passion of our audience and when they get most excited. And, we can look and we can say, oh my gosh, we had all these bumps. Like, why did we have so much more traffic in January than, we had in July? I can tell you exactly why. We launched our beginner's guide to social media in January, and it was hot, and people were sharing it everywhere. And that's why we had so much more traffic to our site, and it tells that story. I also want to provide relevance. So one thing, we always make sure to explain what those engagement rates make. We have like a little key on our reports, so we don't expect people to remember month over month, especially if it's not their primary area of concern. And we also have key takeaways that we write in, and we explain why things are going the direction they're going. If they're dipping down, if they're going up, what's happening to them, and why, and maybe if we're seeing something major, what we're going to do to improve that. Both the good and the bad. You always want to consider, these reports that you're sending, who's listening, and what makes the most sense to share with people. So, with your team, I always suggest making sure you're doing at least a weekly check-in. And these check-ins, you probably aren't going to go in and be like, here's the engagement report. Probably doesn't make sense. You're probably going to go more in like, oh my God, we had this big spike because we, just launched this amazing thing, or oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed this week. Like, I need help. Here's how I need help. It's great. You want to send monthly reports to your team and your company. These are probably going to be more of your metrics, more of what you're tracking, more of how you're supporting the company's goals. And I really encourage you guys, especially if you have brands where you can be transparent, to really share with your community and share with your world, even if it's just little things. I mean, even if you can't share your metrics publicly, you can at least be like, oh my gosh, here's like the best picture that we shared on Pinterest that was so popular. Like, everyone loved this cat photo. Or here's, the best tweet we had all month. It was just hilarious. People like that stuff, and it'll engage your community. They love when you talk about them. So when I look at metrics, I really want 1,000 conversations with 100 people, because to me, that is way more meaningful than having 1 million followers and only 100 conversations. That doesn't make sense. Like, you're not reaching people, you're not connecting with people, you're not making friends, you're just talking to an empty room. So I want to talk with all those people. I'm going to engage with them. So thank you guys so much. If you guys have any questions, I know I'm always the person that thinks of the question like after the presentation's over, so don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm just erica@moz.com. You can also tweet at me. I love Twitter, as many marketers do, and we can talk. Yeah, so thank you very much, and if you guys have questions, I'm sure we have some time probably to take them. And this is the resource list. We'll be sharing the whole slide deck out, so don't worry, you get all these crazy links if you can't write them down right now. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Erica. Thanks so much for that. And everyone, this is Sarah. I'm the social media specialist here at Digital Sherpa, and I'm going to help you with the questions and answers. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and enter them into the chat box. And we have a couple already, so we'll just get ready for them if you want to go ahead with that, Erica.
Sure.
Okay, so question number 1 is from Linda Simonton. It says, my company has over 100,000 suspect fans. We haven't purchased them and we had no paid promotion. Any thoughts on how we got them?
There are definitely people that are going to hit that bot threshold. So like the fake follower check tool, when I ran it on accounts I knew were legitimate, it was hitting about like a 16% or so false positive. So it's good to take that into account. Also, there's just spam bots out there that follow people, whether they're trying to send you links to scam you, or if they're trying to promote whatever their agenda is. I would look at those followers and I would actually consider, like, slowly, don't do it all at once so it's not like a huge shock, but at least going through and banning and blocking the most egregious ones, because you don't, I mean, to for me to keep like, especially the Twitter eco stream clean, like we all need to work and do our part to keep out just spammers because it doesn't make any sense for any of us. I hope that helps.
Awesome. All right, we've got a good handful of questions here. I'm going to try to get through most of them if I can. We've got about 7 minutes left to answer questions. So let's start with Linda. She has, oh, you did that one? I'm sorry. Another question we have here. If the average tweet only lasts 18 minutes, should brands invest in Twitter or focus on other networks?
You should definitely focus on what makes most sense for your message. So, like for Moz, Twitter is very effective. Even though the messages only last 18 minutes, we just reshare smartly. So don't flood your audience with messages, and make sure that what you're sharing is relevant. And you can see where your efforts are matter, where your efforts really matter. I really suggest looking at where your audience is and focusing on that network, especially if you're the one who has multiple hats and you don't really have enough time to focus on everything. Focus on the one where the vast majority of your audience is and get it going really, really well. It's kind of like those people that juggle plates. They start with one and then they add more. And that's kind of what you do with social media. Focus where the large part of your audience is and get it going, get it working, get it where it's making sense, and then branch out. And branch out when you have the time and resources and energy, because that can be a big thing too.
It's a great analogy. We have one from Anne. She asked, is clout based on vanity or engagement?
I'm a big believer that clout is really just a vanity metric. It's really easy to game clout, and that is where clout scores can be really dangerous. Actually, here at Moz, we do a social engagement metric through our follower walk tool that I like a lot better because it actually looks to see like how you're engaging with people versus just like how much you're tweeting or how much you're sharing across social networks.
Absolutely. I have a good question here from Amy. How do you start conversations with followers without seeming pushy or creepy?
That is a good question. So people always want to talk about themselves, and I really recommend asking people questions that are, still relevant to what you're talking about. So, at Moz, we did this thing on Facebook where we posted pictures of us with our favorite coffee or tea mugs around the office, and then we asked our followers to post pictures of their favorite coffee and tea mugs. So it was something work related, it wasn't too intrusive, it wasn't too creepy, and but it was still personal, and people love showing off their favorite mugs, or when they had the same mugs as some of our favorite mugs. That was pretty cool too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've had great success here with kind of focusing on community type messages socially that really kind of draw up some great engagement. I have one here from Sue. She's put a little bit of context here. We're a medium-ish web design, marketing, and IT firm. Our followers are legit, but they're not particularly engaged. Any suggestions for getting more for our efforts?
I wonder about what kind of content you're sharing. That seems like a great market. Obviously, you probably have followers who are interested more in like that web design. I know there's a ton of great web design resources out there, so I would suggest sharing other people's content. Sharing the beautiful things other people are doing and doing some more of the like vanity, like getting those people that you're talking about to like reshare the content that you're sharing. Your name checking out, you're telling them that they're wonderful. They're probably gonna like reshare that with their followers, and then maybe someone new is gonna find you out.
It's good advice. I have a few questions here that I'm going to lump into one general question that kind of share the same theme. B2B audiences. If you don't have a social strategy already, what are your thoughts about starting on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, the bane of my existence. LinkedIn can be extremely powerful. As a community manager, I'm a little frustrated by their back end. I don't think that LinkedIn itself has focused a lot on community management, which is why I say it's the bane of my existence. Um, I do think that LinkedIn can be really powerful. Groups on LinkedIn can be really great for connecting people. It can be a lot to moderate because LinkedIn doesn't actually take care of spammers very well. We have a group for Moz, and it's great. The people who are really engaged with it are really active, and they're curious and they want to know more about online marketing and how they can do better. Um, but it can be like a moderation pain. Also, LinkedIn has been pushing to make themselves more of a content server, and so it may be worth investing some of your employees who can be more in that evangelist role, and perhaps they've been invited to be publishers on LinkedIn, and that can be a powerful way to kind of share your brand's niche and share about yourself, but also share about what others are doing or give advice in your space.
Great. We got time for one more question. I'm going to choose this one from Tara Hall. How effective are social media giveaways when it comes to sales and conversions?
I found, so we don't do them at Moz, but I have done them in the past with other brands, that they can be pretty small, like your gain over your effort. A lot of people search, particular, I think Twitter is bigger for this, where people just like search for giveaways. And so you get a lot of entries from people that they're like professional sweepstakes enterers, and that's not really going to increase your brand. It also depends on what you're giving away that can be really powerful. So for instance, every year Moz, we do an industry survey where we ask people like about their jobs and what they're doing and how they kind of do online marketing. And when we first started doing that was when like iPads first came out, and like everyone wanted an iPad, and like that was like our prize was an iPad. And the next year we did it, and our top prize winner actually like didn't even want the iPad. Like I sent them an email and I was like, "Hey, you want an iPad?" And they were like, "No." And then like the next person on the list got it. Um, so you want to make sure that it's really relevant. So this year for the industry survey, we pivoted and we gave away a ticket to MozCon, our annual conference, and that really resonated with our audience. Like they were really excited to be able to come to this conference.
That's great. I'm actually going to be doing a upcoming webinar specifically on kind of the anatomy of a strong social giveaway. So hopefully we'll all be able to bring some more light to that topic. We're out of time, so I want to thank you, Erica, for your great presentation today. Thank you, everybody, for attending. This webinar was recorded, and I will be sending out a video recording of this and the slides via email within 24 hours, I promise, pending any technical difficulties. But we should be fine. Everything looks good. So again, thank you, everybody, for attending, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.